Welcome, William Steele, True Crime and Steele Spotlight. Thank you for joining. Back with Ignacio Esteban, my co-host. Ignacio.
Hey, Bill, what's going on, man? Another great show.
Yeah, we have.
There's so much going on in the world. It's just shocking. Every year, from COVID on and before, it just gets more shocking, more dramatic, more things going on. Between the global warming that's going on. I don't know about you, but here in Virginia, it was almost 85 degrees yesterday. It was unbelievable. I mean, I have never seen, I've been here 5 years, a November so hot. They say it's the highest, it's been the hottest year on record ever.
Right.
Ever. So those are unbelievable shit. And of course, the heat that's going on between Israel and Hamas is unbelievable.
I'm trying to adjust myself here.
Yeah, looking good. Looking good. I think it looked good there. There's a lot going on. Look what happened to our congresswoman there, Rashid Tlaib from Dearborn, Greater Detroit area, right there. Only the 26 in the history of this country, only the 26 members. This is a big deal, folks. Only the 26 members to ever be censured, and not by Republicans. They had like over 12 Democrats on board also with her censuring because of her remarks of defending they're a terrorist group and not a resistance group. They slaughtered those innocent people, 1,400 plus. They have over 300 hostages, some American there. Most likely they're going to execute them. Once Hamas knows in those tunnels they're about to lose this battle, you know what's going to happen to these people? They're going to get slaughtered. So the death toll is going to end up being 1,700, 1,800 out there. And she is chanting and she's supporting, right, what's going on from the river to the sea. And anybody who knows, who follows politics, knows what that means is the elimination of Israel, elimination of the Jewish state, whichever way they can do it, through whatever means they can. A lot of people think it's genocide. She supports this. Her statements, so Jewish Americans who are Democrats or hardcore Democrats, I think are seeing the problem with the woke movement in the Democratic Party. And a lot of them are leaving people who were Democrats, especially Jewish Americans, are leaving the Democratic Party because this woke regime that supports these groups, that now Israel is the oppressor. Israel wasn't, the Jews were annihilated for years, right? By the Nazis.
Yeah.
They're able to form a state there. You know, the solution is you have to go for a two-state solution. Obviously, these two can't get along. The Palestinians and the Jewish state cannot get along. They can't live together. You have to separate them. You have yours and you have their state, and that's it. And keep them separate. You have to go forward. But if they want to accept that, then they have no choice but to defend their country and eliminate these terrorists that's going on. But shame on Tlaib, shame on Omar, shame on the Jihad Squad, AOC, Terry Bush, all these crazies, I call them, out there, criticize, saying unbelievable things about Israel. And these were same people. I'm glad people that seeing how Israel's being criticized. The United States, the Christian nation has been destroyed, that we were the oppressors in here. And everybody pointing the fingers where, people have nothing to, this is prior generations, but you want to blame this generation for the sins of the past, and you want to punish this generation for the sins of the past. People are not going to tolerate that. People live their lives, good lives, they work with others, but they're not going to be blamed from the sins of the past. My ancestors came from Spain, right? It's like saying, hey, your family were conquistadors. They wiped out this group of people here, right? Oh, you're going to try to punish me for the sins of other people or other generations? It's not going to happen. People are not going to tolerate that.
Yeah.
And they're not going to have that kind of nonsense.
I've been sharing with you some things that I've been following on a really powerful Jewish news group called Community News on Instagram. So I give a shout out to them. They do put a very balanced picture and a lot of historical things that show that Palestine was never like a country. They never had really a flag. They never had a currency. If you could ask people what was their currency, you can't say it because they never had one. What were their boundaries? They never had one. They were the Philistines of the Bible, is what they were. And I think it was if I remember correctly, the ancient Romans, like before the time of Christ, gave them a little land or just the title of the Philistines, and they were a wandering tribe. That was not their land at all, period. Nothing they're asking for was ever their land. And the groups today are trying to convince these gullible college students that it was somehow, and that there's occupiers. Well, even if you wanted to go with that false narrative, I think they withdrew, was it 15, 20 years ago from Gaza? So why are you calling the Israelis occupiers? They haven't been in there in almost 20
Yeah,
years.
they got out of Gaza, and I think in 2005, 2006 up there.
Yeah.
I know they're still angry at the West Bank, the situation out there. They split Jerusalem. Of course, they want Jerusalem, but no, you have to compromise. Israel has been around since the late 40s, 47, 48, right? They've been fighting wars to preserve their sovereignty, to keep themselves there. Israelis, the Jewish, have a long history in that region as well. Things have to be worked out. Israel's not going to go away, right? If you want to live civilly with them, go with a two-state solution, which has been supported for years. Trump administration, Bibi Netanyahu supported. Come with a solution civilly, not slaughtering people like that. That's not the way you're going to have it. And then you have people here in Congress who are okay with it. No, you have to just. And then, of course, what we're seeing in these college campuses is unbelievable, and these massive protests in this country. So what I'm concerned about, and I've talked about on my channel, is that we have probably sleeper cells or people who are being radicalized, self-radicalized by these events that's going on. And don't be surprised. Not only are they going to target Jewish Americans, which we know that, they want payback. They see a Jewish American, they want to go after the person. So be careful wearing those that reflect your support of Israel. Things could happen, but they could also attack Americans because they're really angry of Americans' allegiance. And it's been warned, the president's been briefed by the FBI that Arab Americans or Arabs are very angry against the United States. Same thing happened 9/11. Be prepared for an attack, and we have to be vigilant. I've been saying, FBI has been saying it, NSA has been saying it, CIA, the chatter is out there. They want to strike again, another 9/11. We have to be ready.
And I guarantee you, unfortunately, it's going to happen. We're doing a newscast here based upon my worldly views as somebody who was around a lot of these types of people when I was incarcerated, and knowing what they're really like. And Ignacio, for my audience who may not know him, be fresh joining us today, is retired ATF agent for how many years? 27 years?
Yeah, 26 years federal law enforcement, 21 with ATF, and 5 with U.S. Customs.
So this man, I guarantee you, Ignacio, if you were working today, you would be so sidetracked investigating these threats and people. I guarantee you probably can't talk about it, but probably many of your former colleagues are right in the middle of investigations trying to track these threats down. So
it's common sense, folks. Listen, you don't have to have exact intelligence, but you can read. A lot of stuff gets leaked out anyways, so you know where to look, what media sources, what was talking. But if the director of the FBI went in front of Congress, just common sense here, and is saying, be careful, we're getting. I mean, they're working now with the CIA chatter out there. They're not happy with us, with our allegiance with Israel. Mm-hmm. The Arab world does not like it, especially the Muslim Arab world. Maybe some of the Christians don't care, but the Muslim Arabs do not like this because the Palestinians, most of them are, believe it or not, there are Christian Palestinians, very different. But you see with the Muslim Palestinians, and they're very, very, very aggressive and angry. And look at their actions. And what bothers me is how behind the scenes, these people applaud what Hamas did. They applaud what Hamas did. They say, yes, that was a good thing to do with some of these Palestinians. What do they say? They have to condemn this and not accept it. Because once they accept it, then they're pretty much in cahoots with these people.
Yeah, they're giving aid and support to the enemy. There's actually federal crimes they could be charged with now. A lot of these things I try to follow both sides, but the other side seems to be just putting the horrific photographs of dead children, which of course is very emotional for everybody who sees them. And they're very difficult to look at. You can't unsee those pictures. I look at them every day, just to pray for them and their families. But you are having Hamas, that the deliberate cowards that hide behind women and children under hospitals. They burrow in like ants. The people are saying in mass, not a few of them, we cannot get out because Hamas is deliberately telling us, turn around, do not leave, because they're using them as shields. They don't care about us. They said that we would rather work with the Jewish people and have a normal life, than this destruction and chaos that Hamas misery has inflicted upon us, as a people. We're trying to live in peace.
And they know that too. And the Iranians know that, right? Because they're the puppet masters right here with Hezbollah and with them. And now Yemen is getting involved, obviously. The Iranians have their back rebels. Are there anything to evoke more trouble? And the U.S. is involved in there, and the Russians want. So this is what people are seeing: escalation after escalation. A lot of people feel that it could be a third world war happening here because the Russians are now going to support Hamas and Iran because they want a proxy war themselves to cause us more problems so we don't spend as much time in Ukraine. So that's what Putin wants. This is a sideshow for him
Right,
to
right.
help take over Ukraine. And Zelensky even said he's worried. And I know we're trying to pass that big budget package to support of $100 billion. This is how generous and great country we are, right? 100 billion for the Israelis, their defense, right? Also for the Ukrainians, and we have to secure the border. Once and for all, secure the border. That money has to be spent there. So there's a lot of projects going on that we have to get involved and done because at the way we go right now with the Biden administration, with all these people, they're letting them seek asylum with their economic situation. They're really not political.
Why can't they
refugees.
throw him out of office? Aren't the Democrats scared of where this country's going? Throw him out. Cooperate. Legally remove him from office. I mean,
I think they want
he's
that.
incompetent, and the whole society and the world around us is collapsing. Directly linked back to Biden. I mean, he's a disaster. He's a freaking disaster.
Well, I think when you're seeing, I think we're talking about RFK Jr. now going as independent because Democrats really were trying to push him off and saying you're not going to be able to get votes if you campaign in New Hampshire or in Iowa. They said, well, if you're going to rig the system like this, then I'm going to as an independent. And now Manchin decided, the senator from West Virginia, who used to be the governor of West Virginia, he was a Democrat, but he always sided. He's very conservative, but he's always a Democrat. Unfortunately, wasn't a Republican. He won't run. So that will probably help the Republicans take the Senate. So if they lose the House, I think they can take the Senate because easily it's a red state and they will get a senator in there from West Virginia. But I think he's going to also run and as a different party because he decided that he is now going to look into that. So that's why he's not seeking. So maybe RFK Jr. and Manchin join forces. That's something people are talking about.
Well, like I've said to a few people off the record, I won't put this very publicly on the show. I was incarcerated with a guy when I was working in the law library who was from West Virginia his entire life. Of course, he's very bitter about his case and the outcomes and all this.
Sure.
I'm pretty convinced he's guilty of what he's there for, is horrendous crimes. But he has what he claims to be massive evidence of serious issues with Joe Manchin. So I won't be doing a show about that today, but I want to put that out there. That's somebody else's opinion. I'm not looking for.
And like you said, sometimes people have bitterness and angerness because of their cases too. They have that. So, but I think it's interesting times in 2024. So many candidates, and I know we're talking about Israel, but it all plays in with Joe Biden. How much? I mean, based on his mental faculties and issues he's having, and Kamala Harris, is he really prepared to really deal with Xi Jinping and Putin, who keep on putting more pressure and more pressure and more going on? The border is not good. The disaster in Afghanistan was a problem. It just keeps on spinning out of control the issues he's having out there. That's why I said Joe Biden is going to be one. He's another Jimmy Carter. In many ways, he's probably worse than Jimmy Carter.
Well, let me go back and say this. Is there a legal way? I know there's talk of impeachment. What is the status on that? And even if all this starts the process, what's the chance of removing him?
Zero.
Before the election?
Zero. Because the Senate, you need, like I said, 2/3, right? 66 votes. They don't have that. So it's just to me, it's a political show, waste of time. I don't think they want to do that. I think if they're smart, they didn't do that well in the election just happened the other day, right? Abortion was a big issue, right? Not a lot of a huge shocking loss in Kentucky where a Democratic governor won in a red state. That shouldn't have happened there. And abortion was part of the problem right there. So a lot of things, they have to get a hold of it. I think we're doing the debate that was talked about. And I think you have to have support. They have to help the woman, contraception, right? But I think the Democrats have an issue there we have to be careful about.
Right. Yeah. So like I said, I think he's just a disaster. There has to be a legal way to remove him. And it seems like it's impossible. And any of the crimes they're investigating, he'll probably just pardon himself and his family and his son on the way out the door.
Hunter Biden, I think he will get pardoned. I do agree. I think he will end up getting pardoned. What's going on? We'll have to follow up show. I know we've talked a lot about Hunter Biden and the disaster he has been with the forms, his drug use, everything else he has. And then he has the audacity, says that the media is weaponizing his addiction against him. No, you did to yourself. You embarrass yourself.
Right. And he keeps saying things to distract about what's going on with the war and his father. Now I have another guest that's going to be coming on soon. He's Frank Lordy. Frank wrote a book called Framed Innocence. Now he was out of Ohio, and he was a city councilman who brought down a lot of Democrat corruption. And so they retaliated on him and ensured that he eventually went to prison and his family, was destroyed in many ways with fake charges in prison. So he said, I've been screaming about, the Democrats weaponizing the police and the justice system against Republicans forever. And somebody pointed out to me, well, the Republicans have done it at times too. I'd like to look into some of that to try to do a balanced show. But it seems like he says now, because he's going to be on my show, he's got a phenomenal book. It's called Framed Innocence. I'm going to put it here. The link will be in the description. Shout out to Frank and Rosemary.
No, sounds good.
And he's just a really, really decent guy. He says, man, I didn't do anything wrong. I set out to help people. He said, we brought the Democrat machine to its knees and got them out, and we started helping people, and then we got set up. So
that's a scary part there. You got to be able to back it up, because people who go after, powerful people, companies, they have major attorneys, right? Law firms.
Yeah.
They will crush you. So if you attempt to challenge the establishment, get ready for war, because they have the means to crush you and silence you. Even though it's wrong, they have the means to do it. So remember that.
As you came on just as a guest with no insider information.
Nothing.
On another channel with me on a expose of assisted living. And we named a certain facility. We named a certain company. We went over some of the recordings and evidence that are had. And I will tell you this as an encouragement to you publicly, that we're getting still compliments for the show. We are still having victims of that place contact us with their horror stories. So it's actually resulted in a lot of other requests for media interviews. But more than that, it's so rewarding to open up the phone and like, I used to live there, and here's how they ripped me off. Can I please talk to you guys and tell me what to do about it? We're getting stuff like that. So I want to let you know, Ignacio, Ignacio only gave commentary. He did not say anything disparaging about them. He was just trying to explain what we should do about reporting and how to report things properly. So,
right. What people do if they suspect that kind of abuse going on, who they can contact. Right. That's all my expertise, my history in law enforcement.
So we got hit, like you said, they have big lawyers. We got hit with the cease and desist. Well, every lawyer that's looked at it says, the truth is an absolute defense to defamation. And we have recordings, video recordings, documenting everything said. And, what was intended to be a multi-part series is still kind of on the back burner for now, which, we're trying to play nice, but what they'll do is they'll make more false accusations. Like, for example, one of the seniors that we've been working with, she's been wanting to move especially once she realized and saw with her own eyes how they've been exploiting her. She's wanted to move. They couch it as we attempt to kidnap her.
Yeah.
They couch it as we're trespassing.
It's very tricky, especially when you're dealing with big companies. This case or any other case, you're dealing with their money, right? And they have big time attorneys. Yep. And they're going to counter regardless what happens. So they're going to counter. It's difficult, not easy process. That's for sure. As we
pointed out to the attorneys, their ethical obligations are to encourage their clients to follow the law and not do anything that would allow a violation of law to continue. As officers of the court, they have obligations as officers of the court and under the bar rules. So let's get back on our subject here.
Yeah, interesting topic there, though. It's interesting people to look at for sure, Bill. That's no doubt about that. Back to Israel Hamas, another topic I want, so you have a lot of these students here who are in these Ivy League institutions or, even good universities. And a lot of them here are on student visas. A lot of them are foreigners, right? They're studying here. They're doing these things. They're giving aid to the enemy. They're supporting a terrorist organization. They're writing these letters. They're targeting Jewish students, Jewish Americans, or any other Jewish student. They should be removed and deported out of the country. They have to be deported. Visa revoked.
Hopefully when Trump comes back in, he will try to get some law passed where they can go to these people that directly supported them, even if they were born here, strip them of citizenship, put them on a slow boat to China, and drop them off.
Yeah, that's one thing. But it's the easier thing to do is if you're here on a student visa, you're just studying here, and you're doing this, you're causing this kind of problems, go back to your country. You're done. Your visa's been revoked. You're not going to study here. You're not going to be doing this. And those are a lot of students.
Is there a provision when they get those student visas that they cannot get involved with political discourse? Protest?
Well, especially you can't support terrorist organization.
Right. Okay.
You can involve political discourse, but you can't involve terrorist organization. This is not like, hey, we have a disagreement here with Israel. No, but when you're saying, from the river to the sea, we support Hamas, we're one Hamas. That means the genocide elimination of Israel and that's causing problems for us. And to see that in our country, you're bringing those problems into the United States to stir it up here. And you know who's also behind this? Who's encouraging this bill? The Chinese. The Chinese want this problem, and they're encouraging these students to do this behind the scenes. And TikTok, like I said, I looked at it and I saw the info and I said, you know what? Whatever information I had in TikTok, it is Chinese spyware. Don't forget that. The CCP spyware. Be careful of the information you put there about yourself. They will use it. It's not to be trusted, not to be used. And I think eventually will be banned in the United States. Americans should not be using it, especially the younger generation. The CCP is behind it, and they're stirring the pot because they hate that we support Taiwan. They hate that we're the rivals because they want to take Taiwan and they want to crush anybody who stands up against them. They want to squash it. That's why I wrote the book on Xi Jinping, a genocidal dictator. That's what he is. He's a genocidal dictator.
Mary wanted to do a show with you and me about the CCP because she has a ton of experience in dealing with them and the lack of interest that law enforcement seemed to have when San Francisco CCP was very active.
Really?
Yeah, so she wanted to do a show with us as well.
Yeah, that'd be good. One day we can do a show about the CCC. I've written a few books about it and how they should never, ever host another Olympic Games again. It's ridiculous that Beijing held the only country to have the summer and winter games in the same city in Beijing. That's never happened before. That's corruption, in my opinion. In my opinion, there was no reason to give, especially what they've done to the ethnic Muslims, what they've done to Tibetans, what they've done to freedom-loving people in Hong Kong and around the country. And they were using COVID to suppress people and eventually got out of control. We documented that, all those videos. She must go. They got fed up with it. I mean, he was using it as a tool to control people. You know, the CCP is definitely an evil empire.
Yeah, definitely. And I know that all these people that Biden's letting in, millions of people coming through the border en masse, a lot of them, they say, are military age Chinese males that have currency on them. Who are these people getting implanted into our society? You know, we don't know who they are. Saboteurs, trained spies. Who the hell are they?
Yeah, we go back again to the same point, Bill. If we don't secure a border, we don't really secure a border and get serious like the Israelis have. We have to copy a lot. Even as secure as Israel thought they were, look at the massacre that happened with Hamas. We can't have another situation like that. We had 9/11. We can never have that ever happen again. We can't let these guys ever in our country. We can't let them hijack airplanes. We can't let them hijack our freedoms with their warped sense of it's a fascism. It's an obsession. They're fanatics. And a lot of them, I hate to say it, use people, and most of them are atheists who don't believe in anything. But they hate this country.
I saw a rap song. I saw a few of them recently, but one of them was these two black guys who got out of a Bentley, and they're going like, F Joe Biden. He said, I'm voting for Trump. And, I'm voting for Trump. Y'all been stealing my vote for generations. Y'all call Trump a racist. I've yet to see any evidence of it. I'm voting for Trump. F Joe Biden. You're destroying this country.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, and I think a lot, CNN was talking about that the Republicans, and especially Trump, if he's there, he'll be getting a lot of different votes. And I don't see Biden having any chance really winning a second term. He's become so unpopular. Inflation keeps it going high. The market's not strong like it should be. So we're having issues there. Foreign policy, he comes across weak. The border's a disaster. Immigration is a big problem. People are frustrated. Crime's out of control. And then on top of that, he tries supporting other blue states to violate your Second Amendment rights, to take away your weapons so you can't defend yourself. So, like I said, if you're not safe in Lewiston, Maine on a Wednesday night at a bowling alley, you're not safe anywhere. And you got to protect yourself.
Before we transition there, I wanted to ask you two things specifically. Like, for example, even in Boca Raton, you had the Muslim, sympathizers with Hamas rioting and beating up Jewish people in the street of Boca, like within the last day. Now, a lot of these are wearing ski masks. The police are trying to keep the group separate. A couple of people got some blows, and I'm not sure. It looks like nobody got arrested. Can't they go back, get all those images later, and start targeting them with charges once they have a willing prosecutor's office? Okay, let's identify them and start picking them up. 1, 2. Wouldn't it be illegal if it's 90-something degrees in Florida to be at a demonstration with a ski mask on? What's the legality of that?
Yeah. There'll be local laws to look into if they can wear a ski mask like that for a demonstration. Those are interesting things, but you see that a lot. You saw in New York. I saw other parts in California. They get too close. They start fighting. We don't want that in this country. That's spilling over there. Issues we have over there. Now we're going to have these issues here, and they know that they can the things they can do here they can't do over there, right? And they're taking advantage of our great freedoms, and they're going after each other, and we don't want that
There
here.
was a guy who was in leadership in California at a synagogue, walks out. I think he had the American flag, elderly guy, forget his age, and somebody with the bullhorn, one of these supporters of Hamas, was screaming their message. And when he walked by, he took that thing and he hit him in the face with the
That's what
bullhorn. The man fell backwards, cracked his head on the sidewalk, dies. One, hate crime is the assault, and then because he died, that should be a murder. And he's
Yeah, it
on the
should be.
sidewalk. I saw him on the sidewalk being filmed, and the police were interviewing him, and he had an empty hand, but he was showing the police how he hit him. So he's
Yeah.
admitting the crime. He's on camera doing it. The guy dies. Where's the hate crime? Where's the murder charge?
Yeah, they're going to have to put the case to it, just like they did with January 6th with the issues with the Capitol building. It takes time to build the cases. It'll be the same thing situation with these people and build a case of what kind of crimes to do. But little by little, they're going to have to start deporting a lot of these people from this country with the student visas, with the protests, how angry they become. And also, it doesn't help that we have the jihad squad with their rhetoric, stirring stuff up while their own party has already censured Talib and maybe even Omar and maybe even others. It could be more censures coming down the road if they don't stop what they're saying.
And they lied and said she got censored because it's racial discrimination. It has nothing to do with her race. It has to do with her lies, her stirring the pot with lies. Yeah. When you lie, you don't belong in Congress, period.
Remember when she blamed Israel for the missile strikes and it wasn't Israel at all at the hospital, right?
I don't
right from the beginning, she got on board.
Know how these people get into Congress. They trick their voters to believe that they're fiery or they're charismatic, but they have no education, no character, and they're butchering the truth and inflaming people who are just following them by the nose.
I remember a few years ago when she won. I think it was 2018. She's only been in Congress a few years, just like AOC or Omar and all these. And one of her platforms was just like the DA's office, Attorney General in New York City, saying, "Hey, we can't wait to impeach this guy, Donald Trump." But she said a lot worse. When I get in, we're going to indict this MF, Donald J. Trump. So
they're terrified. They're terrified if he gets back in office because he's probably going to be scorched earth also. Now, I saw a lot of footage where the kidnapped children posters all over the country.
Oh, yes.
People are tearing them down, but others are filming them, trying to get good footage, get some admission statements being said. They know they're being filmed. They're making, F that. It's propaganda. Those people are being shamed. Some of them have been fired from their jobs. What I've been doing, Community News puts a lot of that stuff up, the people and the photographs. Please help us identify. And then the next day, it'll circle back with the picture, the name, where they work. The businesses are being boycotted. They're being shut down. A lot of them are. Well, I think it's disgusting no matter what side you fall on. These kids are kidnapped and missing. Hamas admits what the purpose of that is. It's for, can't say too much on YouTube, but they're going to abuse them in the most horrible ways,
Of course.
And
keep them as human shields too, hoping as human shields.
There was a released tape yesterday from one of the females who was abducted with her boyfriend, who they subjected her to the most horrible things. I think in the end it was like 30 or 40 people, right? Did what they wanted, while they held a knife to the boyfriend's throat and he couldn't do anything. And when he tried to fight to help her, they put a gun in his mouth, killed him in front of her. And then I believe she was murdered as well. So this just came out yesterday, like the full recording of this that these monsters made. So,
it's horrible. These are situations we're living in. They're tough times, and then they're trying to split the country in here and making them that they're the Israelis are the oppressors, which they're not.
They've never been.
They're reacting to. Let's just start with let's just call this, instead of calling it an invasion by Israel into the Gaza, we're going to call this a police action on steroids. All right, let's just call this a police action on steroids.
I agree with
where
that.
These are mass murderers that came in the country and killed unarmed civilians who were at a concert in their homes, right? Peaceful people who had no beef with you. You came in there, and now they're enforcing the laws, and they're going in there and taking care of business.
Right. And so, again, this is YouTube. They're very sensitive. This is stuff reported in the media. We're doing news gathering, educational purposes based upon our experience and our observations of current affairs and our understanding of these events. So these opinions don't necessarily reflect YouTube. And but they do. We're putting our opinions out there. We're entitled to say that. So I
We're
listen. This
entitled,
is so, it's so
and the
horrendous.
video.
It's so
Yeah.
horrendous what they did and continue to do to these hostages and the Israelis when they went in, that I'm not even allowed to say the details on YouTube.
Yeah, you look at the videos. You go out there and you look at yourself. It's on YouTube, anyways. And other ones, go find them yourself. Go take a look at them, and you'll see it out there. You mentioned what some of the other network was it, a Jewish station or a Jewish
Community News. I'm going to interview the founder of
name?
that. He's been in touch, and he's got Community News. It's called. I think he's got like 50 something thousand followers on Instagram. But
And the Israeli Defense Force IDF also
oh,
puts stuff out there. I saw some stuff out there.
I follow that too. And then
Yeah,
there's a
go check it
horrible
out.
guy. There's a horrible guy. I'm not even going to say his name, give him free publicity. That puts
Mhm.
nothing but the pictures of the dead Palestinian children, which are horrific by any standard. Me as an Christian who supports Israel and Jewish people and their right to exist and not be exterminated,
Yeah.
I find it like offensive to see those pictures and know what happened to them. It's horrendous, but you're just inflaming more problems by constantly putting them out there because
That's what he wants.
right,
That's what they want.
exactly what he wants. He doesn't care what's happening to them.
No,
Why doesn't
that's
he
what he
expose Hamas for what they're doing to cause the deaths of all these poor children?
So what he's doing, he's radicalizing people probably in this country who maybe are pro Hamas or pro, let's just say Palestinian, but on a hardcore level, right? Who are going to end up doing things in this country more and more. Like we said, we talked about that the lady who was in a synagogue in near the Detroit area, she was stabbed to death, right? Soon after. So you're going to start seeing more of these people targeting each other. Palestinians targeting Jewish people targeting perhaps come back. It's just going to keep on. What happening over there is going to happen here. We don't want this here. This is the problems, headaches we don't want in this country, because then it comes after us and we're doing the right thing. And then they say, we don't like your allegiance to Israel. So like in 9/11, that was part of the reason why they attacked us, was our allegiance to Israel. Here they come again and try to do the same thing. We're not going to tolerate that. That's where they're in force, and we're going to cause them problems.
Right. There's another guy. He had a cowboy hat on. He was sitting on a bus bench. Did you see that video I sent you? I don't know. Was I able to share that one? I think that was one that for some reason you weren't able to share. So I might have to screen record it. But it's on one of those sites that exposes like really what's going on in the true history. And he gives a very perfect dissertation of the history of this fallacy of Palestine and all the wonderful contributions the Muslims have made to the world, like terrorist bombings and killing 3,000 people in the World Trade Center, and all these things that even their own book calls for the beheading of infidels. And so the ones that are radicalized are doing exactly what their book says to do to the rest of us.
Yeah, they get radicalized. They don't understand the foundation. No civilized society acts like that. I don't care what book you read. Common sense, you treat each other right, you respect each other, and respect the values. That's what good Christian values are about. That's good any decent societies do. What happened in October 7th, it was complete barbarism and unacceptable.
Right. So this is going to a horrible place. We have Ignacio's got some books out that touch on these matters. We're going to put them up on the screen. I'll let him say the name in a second. But I do know they're doing humanitarian pauses of 4 hours they're starting, which in my opinion is wonderful in theory, but it's just going to give more food and water and medicine to the Hamas, allowing them to dig in longer.
Yeah. I'm hoping enough people are able to get out. I heard about 80,000 left within 24 hours already. We want as many civilians out of there as possible, because when it's time to go in those tunnels, but at the same time, trying to get as many hostages out. But this is a chance now to end Hamas once and for all, and they have to do it. They have to do it now. This is their chance.
I saw an interesting video about some of the new technology for going into tunnels. As they go in and clear them, or however they do that, that's got to be, with robots and drones. They fly drones in, robots. They try to go in before they send the soldiers. But as they pass offshoot corridors, they have a bomb they can throw in there that immediately turns into foam and seals it off completely.
That's pretty cool.
So that when they're ahead in their progress, they can't get ambushed from behind. They seal off with a hardcore foam that encapsulates the entranceways as they pass them.
And that's what Hamas did. They stole the money from the Palestinian people, and instead of using for education, for use for medical purposes, for using for food, they used to build the underground tunnels and to attack. And they don't care about the Palestinian people. They care about their hidden agenda, war with Israel, and they don't care if they get destroyed, the innocent people. They don't care about these people. You wouldn't do this.
The hypocrites in all the surrounding Muslim countries which one of them opened their doors to the Gazans who really want to get out of there, who don't support Hamas. From my understanding, to this day, there's not one country that says, come over here until this is over with. Not one.
No one knows support. Lots of books, Bill. Obviously, political books. Like we talked about Joe Biden, one and done. You can find all my stuff on Amazon. Like if those have been watching, they know about it. I do the political stuff there. You talk about Xi Jinping. You want to talk about the history, what goes on with terrorists, supporting terrorists, groups like Hamas. Look at Muammar Gaddafi. Look at the horrors he did targeting Americans, the bombing in Lockerbie, Scotland with the Pan Am flight. I mean, he had a history of stuff. At the end, he died like a coward in 2012 by hands of his own people, which was a great thing. So I talk a lot about stuff, Gaddafi, politics, China, Russia, things going on. RFK Jr. could just be the next U.S. president. So a lot of good political books, and we'll do a little more politics in a little bit, I think, on the Republican debate that just happened. We'll have some interesting comments about that.
And for those of you that keep bombarding me from my fans, inmate to roommate, I'm not allowed to say what month season 2 will air.
And for me, it will be the History Channel. We're talking about remember Gangland, the popular show that was very popular about 10, 15 years ago. Well, Gangland Chronicles, I'll be being interviewed. I was also a consultant on the show with the producers. I'll be interviewed shortly, so it should be an interesting show, hopefully next year coming out. And, of course, take a look at Broken Crowns. Shout out to David Steenhook out there. He has a starting his own channel, QE, Question Everything. I like it. Broken Crowns, based on my book, ATN Undercover. Hopefully we start the pilot in a successful TV series. I think it'll be fun to watch. ATF Undercover. And also a lot of books on Audible coming out now. I have The Most Dangerous Crime Syndicate of Our Time, doing really well. And another one coming out on Tyrants and Killers, the worst of the century.
Ignacio is a man on the move. He's been out of federal law enforcement just over a year. He's got like 76 books out. He's a consultant and an on-air personality, I guess, for History Channel, Gangland Chronicles. Considering running for Congress, like I'm considering running for president next time around. So as you move up and become ultra famous, don't forget your friends who gave you a platform on the way up.
Yeah, this is good stuff. And please also check out my YouTube channel. I'm also putting a lot of stuff there. I think pretty cool political stuff. You like this conversation we're having. And Bill, you also put this on the radio and weekly on your show, right?
Yeah, well, I don't have the radio show at the moment because somebody said some profanity that didn't get edited out, unfortunately.
Steal the Spotlight weekly, right?
Oh, I thought this was, I'm sorry, somebody gave me something that I thought was relevant to what we were talking about. Okay, so let's finish this up, and then we're going to hit with a recap on a massacre case up in the Northeast here, Robert Card, on our next show. So let's sign out for now. Everybody, thanks for joining. Please check out my books, my Audible books. Thank you, everybody, for continuing to remind me. I'm trying to master the technique of the Audible, audiobook.
Audiobooks, yeah.
Interestingly, my research shows that the biggest selling product on all of Amazon are books. The subcategory that sells the most are digital/audio books. So I have so many people saying, Bill, please hurry up and put it out. Nobody reads books anymore. Yeah. I read books still, but
I like reading.
Yeah, so they're coming out soon. Let me just, I've been in prison 18 years. I'm working on mastering this technology and trying to do it all myself pretty much. Thanks again for your support. See you next time. Thank you, Ignacio, for joining us.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.
All right, that makes it easier for me to just cut the episode right there. What's up, babe?
I wonder if this is an okay question. I was doing
for Ignacio?
Again on Hicks.
For Ignacio?
Yeah. So legal.
She wants to ask you something.
Yeah, Mary. How are you?
I'm back. Okay, so you know me, always on the wire, having to look at transcripts.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm telling you, I would have been handy to somebody. I don't know. I'm looking at a Raymond Hicks transcript, and because he goes kind of long-winded about things, but he had mentioned, looking back, that he has an investigator license, which I did look up online through the state licensing system for Florida, which I'm not personally used to, but I guess it's under the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services.
All right.
Right. Okay. It's not my territory. I'm sorry, Ignacio. I'm just trying to be helpful here. So,
yeah, especially once he went talking about threatening to shoot up the state attorney's office and the damn sheriff's office.
Yeah. I'm more, I just search stuff that's public record. I don't do anything nefarious. So it looks like he's a licensed private investigator, security officer, and they also have a statewide firearms license. I guess those are all companion licenses he got. I'm sure it's the right Raymond Lamar Hicks. And so I wondered, is it legal for a licensed PI in Florida to track and triangulate the signals to determine the location of a person by hacking the cell phone of their targeted subject? It sounds more like a law enforcement job than a PI thing, but I don't know how much.
Can he do it? Can he do it as the PI? What will be his motive? He needs to have a client, right?
That's what another
right.
thing
If he's doing it for personal use to really look into who I really am or who, whatever.
Right. I mean, it just seems shady. Seems shady. You don't have to have a client. I don't think he has a client. So that seems like he's doing it for his own personal reasons. That's my opinion. That's worth.
Well, I'm gonna end his reign on his parade for doing it to begin with. I want him to tell his story and cry his crocodile tears about how he was set up, and maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But then I'm gonna say, hey, Ray, let me ask you a question. I've been getting some weird calls. Let me just double check your number. Is it such and such, Ray? Oh yeah, that's me. Oh, is this your number, right? I said, does somebody else use your phone? Oh no, I keep it locked down. Well, why the hell have you been hacking my phone from this number for the last 3 months?
I don't think he's going to do a show with you, Bill. Yeah, I don't think he's doing a show with you, Bill.
I wondered on the legality of that.
I'm trying to make sure he doesn't pose a threat because I do want to go to FDLE, like you said, but I'm kind of like walking a tightrope here. How long do you wait if somebody's serious, right?
But when you confront him, what do you say? You say, no, I never said that.
He says, I would. What he said, I would never do something like that, or I never said anything like that.
He had mentioned something to me, how he got his AK and told his mother, "Oh, you better buy a black dress because my funeral's going to be coming up soon."
He threatened it once before, which is why we recorded him. After that.
Yeah, so I was going over the transcripts to try to get you this.
That's crazy.
And then when we had the thing going, I figured, well, okay, it's out of state, but at the same time, he's threatening life, so I think it's kind of understandable, our concerns. And he repeated it. I was like, what the fuck? This guy's really dumb. But he won't do it now, though. You see, well, listen, when I was doing wrong things, and I know kind of how you guys work and how I was working, if somebody asked me a question, I'd think you were setting me up. If I was stupid enough to volunteer it, that's on me. But I know when somebody's trying to fish by pretending.
Sure, fishing, you get it. So he picked up on it already.
Oh, my God, immediately. He was instantly, I've never said anything like that. Like he almost probably sensed I was trying to get him to repeat it,
Well, you got to record it, so you're okay.
Yeah, and the only reason we did is because the threat's being made. So, all right, listen, let's roll into this other show, I guess.
Yeah, we'll do Robert Card, and then we'll do about the Republican debates that just happened.
What about the CCP thing? I told him on the air that you would like to do a show about that.
Yeah, but I want to know, can I name specific names?
Let's talk to him about it on the phone call, see what he says. But her situation, if I remember correctly, is she was recruited into the campaign for mayor in San Francisco, and right away realized that they were tied in with the CCP and doing a lot of inappropriate things, including it looked like trying to set her up to take responsibility for like something.
Domestic terror plots.
Yeah, they were trying to like reel her in to do something on their behalf, like really serious. And she kept reporting it to the FBI, and no action was ever taken.
What year was this?
This was in.
Come closer, because I don't know. Can you hear her?
Yeah, I can hear her.
Sorry, it was. Sorry, this is because of the stroke.
No worries.
It was 2019.
Recently.
Special election for mayor. The mayor of San Francisco is London Breed. She first was appointed mayor because there was a gentleman before her, he passed away, and then they had to have several subsequent special elections. But the reason San Francisco, seemingly in the near future at least, will never have a Republican mayor is because they have very unserious candidates that attempt to run for mayor in the Republican ticket there.
It seems like they've given up.
PCP.
I don't blame.
So
it's like New York City, right, Bill? Bill, are they ever going to get a Republican back in New York City?
I don't. Who the hell was the last one? I don't remember.
It was Bloomberg, but then he changed parties. He became independent. Giuliani was the last, I think, strong Republican, then Bloomberg. But then after that, what a circus they've had there.
Honestly, when I was in college, I was like a lot of these college kids because I didn't pay attention, didn't know the history of anything. I was a Democrat. I never voted, but I kind of had those views. But honestly, what changed my views is I guess getting in trouble and really reading my Bible a lot and then realizing that, wait a minute, if I profess to be a Christian, I can't support gay marriage and I can't support the murder of babies before they're born.
No.
So I was like, and Mary knows this, so I'm not telling her anything she hasn't heard before. When I was in my teens and early 20s, I had, not knowing any better because nobody cared back then. I care now and it devastates me now. But, I had girlfriends that we had abortions, and so when I look back at it now, it rips my heart out.
It's
That
horrible.
I was even, not encouraging necessarily. So I wasn't even in town when one of them happened, but I can't even believe that I was so blind and so stupid, because even if we were young, there's plenty of people that would have adopted,
Sure.
but my views have completely changed. I deeply regret it, and I don't want to talk about it because I get really
Emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
So my views have changed since becoming a Christian about a lot of things, and it's interesting. A lot of volunteers will come into the prison from different ministries, and I became friends with them, and a lot of them are Democrats, and I would get them privately. I'd say, hey, you told me you vote Democrat, you're not going to vote for Trump, blah blah blah. Let me ask you a question. You come in here to talk to the guys and tell them about Jesus. How do you reconcile your faith with these two main pillars of the Democratic Party?
Yeah.
The abortion thing, and for me, that's enough to where I don't want to be a Democrat.
Sure.
When I get out, even if I'm allowed to vote or not, whatever. And a couple of them really looked at it and the way I approached it and changed their mind and went become Republicans. And other ones were like, well, they made 1,000 excuses. And I said, because it does not reconcile with true Christianity.
Were they black?
Some of them are, but yeah, but surprisingly, a lot of the blacks, even in prison, are turning Democrat. Like maybe
Republican.
They're turning Republican. Even the thugs, like we love Trump, because he started letting out all the offenders.
Yeah, that's right.
He's let a lot of people out of prison. I said, well, that's not going to affect you because you're not a federal prisoner. But he's got the right idea, letting nonviolence out, really making room for the violent guys and all that shit.
All right, bro. Hey, Bill, I got a few more minutes. Let's do then Robert Card. We'll update that, and then the Republican debate, which is fascinating. Fascinating. A lot to talk about there.
All right. And what I can do with that, probably this morning, I'll put the one show up, and then the show we're about to do, I'll put this up tonight. The problem is I can't put it on Facebook for 6 days.
Right. Yeah. If you want to send me the video, whichever one, and I'll put it on my Facebook page. Send me the video. I'll put it in there.
There's a couple of groups and maybe your LinkedIn too. That'd be good.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. No, I'll put it in a lot of spots. That's for sure.
All right. So we're gonna roll into the show. It's gonna 2 topics. All right, you ready? Let me start this. I'm starting at 113:40, 114. Welcome to William Steele, True Crime and Steele Spotlight TV. I'm back with Ignacio Esteban, retired ATF agent.
Ignacio, what's going on, man? What's up, buddy? Always doing more topics, more shows, more things to talk about with the audience. I think they enjoy what we talk about, and it's always something to talk about. Always something going on. We got plenty to talk about.
The drama never ends, and in fairness to these other competing channels, I don't look at you guys as competitors because I learn a lot from how you're doing things. I've been in prison 18 years. So I'm just playing catch up, and I think I'm doing okay for being out just over a year. So
I enjoy doing these shows, and of course we do the weekly show, and we do quite a few of them. But I've been a guest, I think, over 150 shows already. It's crazy. I've been doing this almost 2 years now, Bill. It's unbelievable. 2 years with the shows and the books and the writing and everything else, and I enjoy talking about all these topics. And I think we're helping educate people, which I think is the most important thing. I think today we're going to talk about follow-up from the Robert Card.
Yep.
Right. The worst mass shooter in Maine's history. Right. And probably the worst mass shooting since Uvalde, Texas, which happened last summer, that had the massacre of the school at Robb Elementary, which is heartbreaking. And again, all these mass shootings have something in common: mental health issues. Mm-hmm. All these guys have crises. All of them have been. It's almost very similar what happened there in Parkland a few years back, right, in Florida, in South Florida, right there at the high school with Nicholas Cruz, where there were a lot of people pointing the finger. This kid's not right. He's making threats. He's doing things. It was reported to the FBI. They sat on it, fell through. They would have to settle with the family of the victims years later because they didn't do anything. Possibly, I know that governor just signed a report commission to start investigating independently who knew what, when, and where did it go wrong. What happened here? Because a lot of people were saying a lot of things about this guy Card. At the end, people who don't know, he committed suicide. At the end, he left a note after he committed the mass shooting. He said he was dead for between 10 to 18 hours when they found the body. That's what the medical examiner said. So he was dead for a while. And the weapons he used, he bought himself. He bought himself. He had the weapons, a .308 rifle that he had that he massacred those people with. He bought himself, and the pistol he shot himself with, he bought himself. And they knew he had all these weapons. And he was institutionalized in a mental hospital for 2 weeks. Why was he released when everybody said his situation was digressing? His own son said
it was getting worse, and he made threats of shooting up the reserve army base where he was
before.
Right.
And because they were allegedly in his mind, he was hearing voices, and people. He told his son that allegedly that people were calling him a pedophile, right?
Right. Now, this is that we're reporting from the news. We're not using that word gratuitously here. This is news reporting, educational rehashing of what's publicly out there. So these are not our accusations.
What's been out there, and the authorities went out there to try and find him. They messed it up. They have yellow flag laws. Was enough? What more could they have done? My thing is, if he's in this mental hospital and they see situation, everybody says he's getting worse. Why was he released? A lot of questions to be asked. Right. Why didn't he stay longer? And why didn't the army do something else about him? I guess what could they do? And the authorities, they need to find him. They should have talked to him. They should have hunted him down. But a lot of people think he would have been. His own family, his brother allegedly offered to take his weapons from him and hold it for them.
Wow. Now, I was doing some homework, getting ready for this follow-up with you, and there was, go figure, NBC, I think it was, interviews a guy who appears to be, focused on other men and not on women. So he was saying, I was one of his neighbors, and we knew to stay away from him and his family. They are right-wingers. They are, almost implying Trump supporters, just the whole negative spin about that, and that it was rumored that people were starting rumors about him that he was the P word, and that enraged him in addition to his mental illness, but that they would hear gunfire on the compound, the family compound, all avid shooters and militiamen. Now, this is reporting from another network. We're not making these accusations, but it's just ironic who they would pick to interview for that. And the things they said would just attack the political party rather than this guy's mental illness and the lack of law enforcement doing their job to take this guy's guns.
Yeah, because obviously he's in the reservists in the army. He's a sergeant. He's a firearms instructor. He's a weapons expert. He takes those skill sets that he has. His world is deteriorating. He hears voices allegedly. People are talking to him. He's hearing stuff. And so his situation goes bad. If it's anybody to do that to innocent people who don't know, I mean, this was a bowling alley where families were at. This was a bar family was at. And he comes in there with his .308 rifle. He starts opening up. And there's people out there that try to charge him who died heroically, who tried to take him out before he killed innocent children. And they died trying. They died heroes.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a nightmare. There was a manhunt. I don't forgot how long it went on, but do you remember how they eventually located the body itself? I mean, he's no longer actively shooting. He's dead for over half a day.
Yeah, I think they just came across the body because it was so many people out there searching, and I think it wasn't all covered up. I mean, he shot himself in the head, and allegedly that's what's been reported. And
I know somebody else. When I was incarcerated in another state, I was a law clerk. And in his case, this guy hit an old man with a stick, knocked him out in front of his house. They were arguing over a stolen tattoo gun or something, So this young kid hits the elderly man with a stick and knocks him out on his thing, probably something that might have been treated as a fractured skull or concussion, maybe survivable if he got help right away. He lays out there. The family checks on him like a week and a half later. He's out there, pieces of him, and they find out. They call it the predatory action of animals because there's bears and stuff around that area. And actually, in Virginia, this happened. And so many pieces were never found again. And there was indicators on the body of predatory, whatever. I forget how they call it, not predation, but whatever it is when the animal eats the corpse that's sitting there.
Sure.
So if this guy's corpse was sitting there much longer, the same thing probably would have happened to him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Especially up there in Maine, they got all that. So it's just a matter of time. So at least they found the corpse. There's some closure there. The investigation can go forward. But the question is now, the governor's concerned. Everybody's now CYA, and they're all going to point the finger at different people, right? Because this shouldn't have happened. People knew what was going to. This could have been prevented, right? Just like Nicholas Cruz could have been prevented. If the right people, authorities knew about him, The Army knew about him. Mental health knew about him, right? A lot of people knew about this guy. Family knew about him. Friends knew about him. Neighbors knew about him. So the system failed.
Right.
Obviously,
Now,
system failed.
Ignacio, I know, with your background in law enforcement, you're a prolific author. You definitely have a book or two about this topic. What are
Sure.
those books so I could tell my people to look them up?
Yeah. That's been the worst mass shootings in U.S. history and how to stop them from happening again. And I got inspired after it happened in Uvalde and the disaster that was. And that was the authorities not responding and sitting outside for almost 80 minutes while the killer was massacring kids and teachers inside the classroom there. That was a disastrous response. There's some good ones, like we said about Nashville was a good one. And we talked about some other ones where they come in there pretty quickly. The transgender one, the female that wants to become a male, right, at her school that she killed. That was, I think, a few months ago.
Didn't that manifesto just get leaked like in the last 2 days?
Yeah, maybe somebody can look
Yeah,
at
there were
later.
some letters
I have a
that
chance.
were written that were saying that
Yeah,
didn't like the white people that ran the area, didn't like this, didn't like that,
and she was an alumni there. She studied there. Can you imagine that, going back to your old school and killing all these young students? And the principals, they always do the same. They want to save the students, always charge, and the principals always get, just like Sandy Hook. The principal went out there to try to save her students, and dies there, and all these horrible situations. Same thing with the principal. She died in that school also trying to save her students, and she's killing them, the teachers.
they're giving these kids these chemicals to
Yes.
transition them from one sex to another that make their brain into a chemical bomb cocktail. And if you look at a lot of the side effects for many of these types of drugs, a lot of the antidepressant drugs say they lead to suicide and homicide. And then you're mixing them with all these hormones and this and that, and their brains are still forming. They don't have proper, skills to make decisions. I don't even think anybody does until you're like 23 or something.
Yeah.
But you have kids in there, 14 taking these chemicals and being told it's okay to change all your body parts around. And then they're wondering why this firestorm in their brains is making them freak out and do these things. I just don't get it. And then it seems like they try to conceal it to protect that industry in the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah. So that's a book. I talk about a lot of stuff there, but the biggest problem we have is mental health crisis. I mean, some of the worst ones we have, Steve Paddock from Las Vegas. Also, he was very successful. Obviously, he was a white male, older male, and he had issues. And
That was at a concert. He shot down from the hotel at the concert.
Sniper, yeah, he set up. He had 2 high-end suites there at a hotel there in Las Vegas, sniper style, opening up in there. And that's the reason why the bump stocks end up getting banned, because he ended up using bump stock on his assault rifles to make him shoot faster, almost like fully automatic, a lot faster. And he kept on using all these different weapons. He had like over 30 something. Look at all the videos online. Over 30 something, broken the windows, and you see the smoke coming in, and he dies like a coward. You see the picture of him. He commits suicide when they saw the police coming.
To this day, there was no motive given at all. I don't think there was ever a motive discovered, was there?
Well, I think they're all crazy. Mental health.
Yeah.
That's a problem, because it's not normal. If you're not terrorist, you're not domestic, and all of a sudden you want to kill people, and your situation like this guy. What's his motive? Angry, mental health issues, that he hears voices. When when you hear all these serial killers that say it wasn't me that did it, it was other person that made me do it, right? I wouldn't have done this, with other ones, and they make excuses. It's a ton of reasons why, and at the end, it's a crisis we have in this country, one after the other.
Human mind, I freely talk about my mother's mental illness. I grew up with this, and she was committed to psychiatric hospitals, and it's heartbreaking the things she went through and thought over the years and said, and like inviting Jimmy Carter over to my birthday party when I was 13 years old, and writing letters to Prince Philip, and we'd have the walls covered with letters from Buckingham Palace and the White House. Thank you, Mrs. Steele, and but we can't, the president cannot attend your son's birthday party. He has prior, but we'd get these courtesy letters back, and so the mind and the lady we were working with in assisted living, who we have tons of video for, just so loving and lonely and glad to see us, and yet when she speaks to others, she can't remember what she did that morning.
Sure.
And it's just heartbreaking how it can come and go. And one of the guys, the guardian ad litem in the case you and I discussed, told us 2 days ago, he said, look, her changing her story about who she remembers and doesn't is truly not malicious. She didn't remember who I was, let alone who you guys are. She said, as soon as you walk in the room, she'll remember who you are, because she spent a lot of time with her. But with me, I've seen her once or twice, and she didn't remember me. She doesn't remember the current guardian. She doesn't remember that she was put into a guardianship, and she's being, in our opinion, manipulated by the people that have her there to believe that we're the bad guys. It's like sort of like a Stockholm syndrome. and I've heard other experts compared it to undue influence. You're exposing corruption there, alleged corruption, but we have the proof.
Yeah.
They don't want to expose, so the best they can do is demonize us, and then try to get this poor lady who doesn't have a good memory to go along with it. It's just
there's a saying, right? First they isolate, then they medicate, and then they liquidate.
And they liquidate, and it's sad. And I'm writing a book about corruption within the guardianship systems in the United States, and because there was a massive case, just like folding, kind of identical to what goes on here. It seems like I'm not alleging corruption here at all. We don't have the proof yet. We just saw close to 100 cases that were handled by all the same people, and most of them were rubber stamped with no accounting or anything. And in Las Vegas, a lot of people were doing the same thing, and a lot of them went to prison for doing it. So I'm writing a book about guardianship and try to look for reforms and get with other organizations. And I just finished writing a book about a week ago about assisted living facilities and abuses and selecting them. And so I have to polish that. Maybe I'll send it out to you for an advanced review so you see what you think.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'll definitely look at that. And that's an interesting topic and very relevant in today's society. Yeah. A lot of people are going through those same issues. So for sure, Bill,
it's heartbreaking because my mother was abused in the psychiatric places in various ways, and so that stuck with me all my life. As I got out of prison, I wanted to be the good guy again. I didn't want to hurt anybody. I want to help people with my knowledge and my voice and my platform. That being said, Ignacio's got some books on these subjects. I've got some coming out. He has solutions to these mass shootings book.
Yeah. It's a lot of it. We may have to copy a lot of what's going on in Israel and fortification, right? Because if they had armed security there, right, off-duty officer, maybe a different situation with this guy Card, right? Yeah. And even though you have a concealed weapons permit, you still can't carry open carry. I think Maine is open carry, constitutional carry. You can have open or concealed as long as you pass a background. But you can't bring like place you're drinking. If this is like a bar or bowling alley which have alcohol served and you're gonna be drinking, well then you have to leave your gun in your car. But that's not going to help you. So you need to have these kind of places, armed policing or off duty or security. That's smart because, like I said, if it happens in Lewiston, Maine, in a bowling alley on a Wednesday night, you're not safe anywhere.
I'll tell you what, and let me bring this up because I meant to bring it up on a previous show. There's at least one or two companies that now put out an AI surveillance camera system because they found out through law enforcement and all this that the majority of active or mass shooters, when they're trying to enter a building to do this, pull out their weapons just before they enter. Sure. And in their entranceway, they already have it out as they're going in. Right. This AI program doesn't just say, hey, there's somebody here if you happen to be looking at your security camera. It immediately identifies if there's a handgun, rifle, whatever. It identifies a handgun or a rifle and immediately alarms the whole place that there's somebody entering, or trying to get in and he's armed. And it's out. And it's out. This AI is so advanced, it detects it before they ever get into the building, which gives everybody a chance.
At least that's something to get people going. Then maybe that's something we can start using.
I'm going to look up a couple of these companies and I'm going to give them a free ad here on my thing. I'll maybe put a little advertising up. I have no vested interest in it. I have not personally vetted them, but I think I'm happy to spread the word, and I like to have the inventors and these CEOs from these type of companies on my show as a guest as well to talk about their products.
Yeah, because as we know, Bill, every time there's an active shooter, because all these guys have mental health issues, they get triggered, right? So as we speak today, someone has been triggered from what happened with Robert Card, and they're planning the next mass shooting because unfortunately it's an epidemic that happens in this country. And another one we'll be talking about. It doesn't stop because we have a plethora, so many people who need mental treatment who are not getting it. They need help and they don't get it. This guy needed help. Yep. He needs to stay in that hospital. He should never have been released, but he did.
And like you said, too, the threat levels and the alarm bells are ringing all throughout law enforcement that there's actively planning attacks within the United States from these terrorist sympathetic groups or whatever.
Yeah.
And so we need to be prepared. And if these products work, look at the reviews. I'm just giving them a free ad because on the surface, they seem that they detect. And I would love to have the inventors and the CEOs of these companies on my show, to talk about their products and how effective they are. So maybe we'll do a show with them, the three of us. So that'd be good. So let's transition. Check out Ignacio's books on these topics. And
look me up on Amazon. Ignacio Esteban right there. You see my name, Amazon. Look at Bill's books up on Amazon. Look at all the stuff. Look at our shows. We talk a lot about things. A lot of things to look at. Audible too. You can check me up on Audible, Amazon, everything here, and everything we talked about. It's good stuff.
Yep. Now we're going to transition real quick. We just want to wrap this up with a little bit of story about these Republican debates that were held.
My
Last
goodness,
night.
the third one, they just get better and better, less people and more intense.
Yeah.
Pence is gone now. For people who don't know, former Vice President of the United States, with Donald Trump, has decided that is not for him. He had no chance, anyways. I think he had 2 or 3 percentage points. He had no chance. He was out, and he says he may try again in the future. I don't know. He's unpopular. Obviously, the left doesn't like him. He's unpopular also on the right with many of those who support Trump. They don't like that. So I think he'll have a tough time down the road there. Others have dropped out also. So now you have, who do you have? Chris Christie, you have Vivek Ramaswamy, you have Ron DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and this guy's Tim Scott from South. I think he's going to be gone soon. So it'd be 4. I think Christie's going to be gone soon also because his percentage is really poor. He thinks he's going to win New Hampshire. I don't think he's going to win New Hampshire. I think Trump is a runaway. But Trump doesn't even show up. That's how confident he is. He doesn't show up. Now, obviously, he has his legal issues. He has to deal with a civil trial. He just testified. His son's testified. His daughter testified. It's a big deal there. We'll see how that turns out. And he has other issues. Now I heard they're going to have personal people from Mar-a-Lago testify against him on the document cases, for him classified documents in the bathroom, from the maid to people who worked in there. A lot of things they countered and they went through. Obviously, the big stink was that a lot of people knew about him talking about the possible invasion of Iran, operational plans, the bombings that they were considering. That's all out there. So that's a problem. I mean, you have a skiff. If I was to do that, Bill, I'll be honest with you, we have classified documents, and I was so reckless of that, I go to jail for that. I mean, he's a president of the United States. He needs to know better, and he needs to protect it. I think if any of those, to be honest with you,
here's the thing.
I think that's the most serious charges.
I hear you, and if he did it, of course, it's actionable. But I think probably he's briefed about the proper handling when he gets in office. It's like he's so motor mouth. It's like a rookie mistake. It's like it's not only a rookie mistake; it's a felony. You can't talk about our plans with people that don't have clearance or outside of protected environments. You know,
and you can't take those documents to your bathroom in Mar-a-Lago and storage them in your bathroom. We have people who are working there. The one guy doing maintenance, doing the crown molding, he said he was looking at that stuff. Allegedly, what's been reported now.
So he decided to use the bathroom while sitting on the bowl. He was fingering through our plans to.
Well, he's working on the bathroom. He's doing the crown molding on the bathroom, and it's right there. You guys not even smart enough to. I mean, come on, man, that's reckless.
I'll tell you what. In fairness to him, didn't Biden have him in his garage with his open door?
That's also wrong too.
Next to his Corvette, the boxes were right there.
It's all about accountability on both. We are people. You have to hold people accountable. I don't care what party you're in. I'm about, as me and my law enforcement background, accountability on all ends. And that's why I like RFK Jr. He wants to hold people accountable also. And he's a guy, he doesn't need this. He's a multi-millionaire. If you who don't know him, he's a very wealthy environmental attorney. His family suffered immensely. His uncle, Jack Kennedy, was assassinated. His father was assassinated by Sirhan Sirhan. He was probably the first tragedy that happened in our country by a Palestinian who did not like our stance with Israel. Right. Bobby Kennedy was a big supporter of Israel, and he killed him for that reason. Remember that. Yeah. So you're looking now, history repeats itself. An assassination started then.
Yeah, I can't even imagine being in his shoes and the family comments about running after so many people were assassinated in the family. Like, enough, help out in another way.
He almost got killed. I put this in my YouTube channel a few weeks ago. He's in L.A. This is the irony of the world, Bill. Not far from where his father was assassinated in the Ambassador Hotel in Los Angeles. He's only a mile and a half away from there. He's in another hotel, right? There's this guy who's posing as a U.S. Marshal. He's armed. Lying, he's posing, getting very close to him. Private security picks up he has a weapon and addressing the visual with local authorities immediately. Very close. History repeating itself. Extremely close.
Man, so somebody was on point. Somebody deserves a promotion. You know, somebody stopped it.
You know why? He had to pay for his own security because the Biden administration would not approve the Secret Service protecting him. Can you imagine that?
Of course, they would love to see their political opponents eliminated. Yeah. My opinion, not YouTube opinion.
No, that's the way. Right. That's what it appears. But now I'm hoping Secret Service now, because he's a serious third-party candidate, he needs to protect it because of his family history. He is a target. I mean, these are the problems we have in this country where, especially Biden, he has to understand he is not going to have a second term. There's too many people, because all of you that come in are going to keep on taking from his voters, right? RFK Jr., Manchin. It looks like Manchin's going to come in on board now also. This guy, Kyan West, right? He's from the Green Party, ultra right. You got all these guys taken from the Democratic Party. So chances of them winning the Electoral College, what they need, slim and none. I think Biden's chances.
I did miss the entire debates, right? But I looked at some of the recaps
Okay.
today. Seemed like
Okay.
the focus was on the guy with the V, the long name, and Nikki Haley.
Vivek Ramaswamy. Man.
Where was what's his name, DeSantis, and all this? I'm not a DeSantis fan. I know you are.
He had some good comments in there too. He you know what he's doing? He's acting presidential. He does not want to get like this between Nikki Haley. He answers. He doesn't answer them back. He talks about policies. I think that's the right way to act with it. That's the way it should be. This is a circus, a clown show, Bill. When they start acting like kids like this, okay, this is one of the great lines from the debates. If you haven't seen it, Nikki Haley calls Vivek Ramaswamy scum. I have never, ever in my life, I've seen a lot of these debates, ever heard one candidate call another one scum.
Is that because he brought up her daughter having TikTok account?
So she criticizes TikTok, right? But yet he brings up the point where it is the future, right or wrong. The younger generation uses it. Like I said, I don't like it either because of the Chinese spy war. What could be happening? There's some good points there. But then he catches her daughter uses it. So what's going on here? What's the hypocrisy here you're talking about? Well, your own family, you're not regulating. Like you said, why don't you regulate your family first before you want to regulate everybody else? And then she said, keep my, like Will Smith. Remember what Will Smith said to Chris Rock? Keep your out of your wife's mouth, out of my, right? She said the same thing. Keep my daughter's name out of your voice or whatever. And he said, and then he continues talking and she goes, he's just scum.
Oh. Hey, you know who I think would have been a good candidate, but maybe he didn't want to go against Trump. Maybe this round, maybe when I run in 2028, I'll have to go against him. Rick Scott, former governor of Florida. I think he's phenomenal. I like Rick Scott.
Yeah, Rick Scott. He had his own issues too. People think he was involved in a large Medicare scam.
Oh wow!
And he was almost indicted right when he won. So look into Rick Scott's history.
Doing developing a bullet train for Florida because it's such a long state.
they have it now.
Oh, they do. So where have I been? I've been locked up. Okay.
they opened up about a year ago. It's from really quick to go from Orlando to stops Fort Lauderdale. I think it stops in Palm Beach, Fort Lauderdale, and then it goes to Miami. It's good. I mean, if you don't want to deal with the traffic on Turnpike or deal 95, it's a different alternative. Obviously.
What's the name of it?
It's in there. I remember. It's called something.
Can you put your vehicle on it, or is it just passenger line?
I think it's just passengers.
So they developed it on its own rail system, or are they using existing?
Really? Yeah, they have a rail system for it. So it's been popular.
Did they use the maglev system where it's like an elevated? On the
I'm not sure about that, but
that's fascinating.
Yeah, you can look at all the videos and stuff out there. It's been there for a year. I'm glad DeSantis finally got over the hump there. Well, and it went forward.
Let me give you my experience. Now, we all know if you're in South Florida and you're going to go to Disney World, it's a long, grueling, annoying trip. About 3 hours or 2 hours, whatever, depending where you're coming from. And so, let me give you my perspective as a former prisoner. When you're transported from South Florida to the Panhandle to reception or to a prison, you're in the back of a van with a bunch of stinky dudes. You're shackled with a black box, handcuffs like this, an immobilization black box, waist chain, leg irons, and in my case, many times because I had escape history, they would put the electric belt on me, right? So that was kind of tight. Yeah. So, this is where, for the audience who doesn't know, the officer who may or may not like you, want to be a jerk that day, has a remote control, and he can apply 100,000 volts right to your spine. If I'm not mistaken, that's the voltage. And that'll drop you because it's right near your kidneys and your spine and all that stuff. So imagine being in that condition, and I'm a little overweight, so I have a belly, and so everything's cutting into me here. They don't put the finger space between the cuffs like they're supposed to, right? They don't do that. They just crunch them down as if you're going 2 blocks to the police department.
Do they double lock them at least?
Generally, but I used to find ways to get out of all that stuff because I was a locksmith. So if I can get to the lock that's hanging on the chain, it's usually a small master lock. I'd pick that, put the chain through everything, take the black box off, and then proceed to pick the cuffs. And I would try to go, because I knew the ride from the south of Florida to the Panhandle could be 10 hours, could be 16 hours. You're stopping at jails and prisons all along the way.
You'd be long,
and they don't tell you where they're going to put you out to use the bathroom, or, for an hour or two at a county jail on the way of the trip. They'll stop off periodically, or they'll stop, in Daytona overnight and check you into a jail, and then pick up on another van in the morning. So you have to stay. Sometimes if he's traveling very long, they put you in a jail overnight. So I have to take my restraints on and off, on and off. Each time you do that, that's an escape charge. But a lot of times I would remove my restraints. I would generally stay quiet about it because I didn't want the other guys who were maybe violent or had murder charges escaping, and I helped them.
No.
And I'd be responsible. I was doing it because the officers would put them so tight. I had times where I'd get back to the jail or prison, and I had indentations here over my bone that were bleeding. And you don't know who had those cuffs on last. They're supposed to spray them with disinfectant and all that nonsense. I don't know who had them on last. And to this day, especially on my ankles, I have scars over my Achilles heels.
Yeah.
You'd have
So you wish it was a train system. It made it a lot easier for you back in the day. Right?
Yeah, they would have had fun with me if they caught me. They would have probably shot me or electrocuted me or give me another charge. But I was trying to ride for comfort those days. I wasn't trying to escape. I was just trying to be free of torture.
Yeah, but look it up. They do have the train system. But interesting about Rick Scott. He was almost indicted himself. So
I didn't know that. Okay,
check him out. All Medicare scams, and he was on this big Medicare billing companies. So a lot of people thought that he both times he won. So he barely won, just like DeSantis the first time.
I saw a video about the Miami Merchandise Mart where they were investigating. There's a task force there assigned to investigate the Medicaid billing, and it's on the prosthetic devices. And they met the bare minimum Medicaid requirements. They'd have a few samples, 2 handbooks about the samples, an office space with nobody there but a secretary who didn't know what she was doing. She was told to hand out a card if somebody came. So a journalist went, "Oh, let me have a card." And she stepped outside and called, and it rang right back to that girl. She watched the girl answer her phone, And then the task force officer said, "We need more agents because this is millions. Just in Miami, it's huge, this scam." So
It's our tax dollars.
We've been looking into what's called the Medicaid waiver system, and we are finding out that is being fraudulently used as a form of creative finance to keep these places afloat in a very, very illegal way. So that's something we're on the trail of. We'll circle back.
Check it out. So, keep people accountable. We are a country of laws. You have to do things right. If you're scamming and doing things right, you'll be. I don't care who you are. No one's above the law. Yep. And regardless, this is our tax dollars, and people have to be true, right, and be accountable. So good for you, Bill, for doing that.
The other federal people we spoke to said eventually, I'm not going to say too much here, but it goes into not only Medicaid fraud, but like widespread racketeering for the people that are doing it.
Oh, it is racketeering. So conspiracy racketeering cases, and they're frauding Medicare. It's no joke. That's a serious problem. So good for you, Bill.
So here we are. We wrapped up the debates. I saw Nikki Haley going through it. I watched the highlights, and they're like you said,
her and Vivek, man, they go back and forth. It's brutal between them. What was that line you picked up on? She's Dick Cheney on heels,
right? He said, "If you want another Dick Cheney and as president wearing 4-inch heels, vote for her." Because evidently when she got out of public service, I guess when Trump was starting to take a lot of heat and people were leaving the administration or whatever. For whatever their reasons. Well, I guess he's tough to work with too, but it is what it is. She was one of the people that bailed on him, but she did it in a graceful way, I think, compared to some of the other ones. But then she immediately got on the board of Boeing and these other companies, and so she's profiting off wars, theoretically, and so he brought that stuff up.
I don't think she'll be her temperament there. She needs to be measured and she needs to be controlled. You want to be president of the United States and you're calling a fellow candidate a scum? I mean, how are you going to handle yourself when Putin talks down to you or Xi Jinping? Are you going to call him a scum like that also? Act measured, act professionally, show that you're presidential. She did not. She doesn't get my vote for that. I don't care. I understand Will Smith, but he was out of control slapping Chris Rock. If he wants to get mouthy at a time, why not talk to him outside and say, "Hey, Chris, I didn't appreciate those comments about my wife. She had this medical condition. That's why she shaved her hair. G.I. Jane comment was inappropriate." Do things right, people. Go up to the stage, slap them. "Hey, you're scum." What kind of example is that set to the younger generation? I'm not liking that.
Some people say it was staged to this day. Who knows? You know what I used to love about Trump? One of his things, his body language, how he commanded his environment. When he did the debates with Hillary Clinton, he circled her like a shark and made her very uncomfortable. He kept circling her. he got up in her personal space while he was, and he said, "Just right. You don't want me president because you'd be in prison." He told her.
I'll put you in prison. That's for sure. If I was president, you're right. You'll be in prison. You'll be in, and she was like this.
The other thing
And
I
she
used
would
to
have been.
love
She should have been.
when he would shake hands with world leaders or whoever it was, somebody who thought they were as powerful as he was, he'd grab their hand, a real firm handshake, and then grab their forearm sometimes or their hand and pull them to him like that.
It's a power move. Yeah, for
Yes,
sure.
yes.
Yeah.
And body language control. And other times, if they stepped in front of him, he'd grab them by the shoulder, push them back. He'd go in front of them and go like this.
I remember that he did that. I think that was the president of Montenegro, and then he likes to wear that red power tie, which is always good too. A, it's for Republicans, and B, it's a power tie. So if you ever go for an interview or do anything else, wear yourself a nice red power tie. You'll get people's attention that you're serious about this position and you know what you're talking about.
He is a product of the New York media, for decades. Okay, he knows how to work the media, work the cameras, work the news cycle. He was bred for it. So there's nobody going to outwit this guy.
It's gonna be a fascinating 2024. It's gonna be an election for the ages. That's for sure. Yeah. An historical one. We see which way it can go any way right now, and no one knows which way it's going to go, which is fascinating.
And for the record, I announced that I'm running for president in 2028. I don't know. We got to make this official one of these days, probably in a few more years. But so I put it out there. Ignacio has aspirations to possibly run for Congress.
Yeah, the more I see of a circus, the less my aspirations grow.
Oh God, yeah, you have everybody who has any of the littlest beef with you bringing up all that stuff.
So, yeah, and then you see all the infighting. Imagine you have to deal with a Talib. You have the jihad squad there. That you have the other ones that are fighting. I mean, who wants to deal with that big nasty? And then you saw McCarthy. Ken McCarthy, man, he's really angry at Matt Gaetz. He had an interview on CNN or Fox, and he really let him have it. The Crazy Eight, he calls them, who really did some damage. Michael Johnson, I think he's good. I think he has some, but there's some issues people have with him. He's Speaker of the House. I know we haven't talked much about him. He has a big problem right now, though. He's got to get the aid package sent already. Right. Get that approved already. Go with Israel. If you have to do it individually, do it individually. You have to do it united. The border, Israel, Ukraine, go forward, and then you got to get a budget for this fiscal year. Get the budget done. Something
has to be done also to rein in the weaponization of law enforcement and the Justice Department to go after political adversaries. Now, if there's a legitimate case to be made, fine.
Sure.
But when you telegraph it in advance, you're going to target a person and then search for a crime. That I don't know. It's going to turn things on its head. I'm interviewing a guy I mentioned to you in another show. Frank Lordy, he wrote a book called Framed Innocence. So shout out to Frank and his family and Rosemary. Now, Rosemary and I are going to be doing a cooking show together here starting soon. Cool. Yep. And so we got a major production coming in to put that together. And I was going to do that initially, and it got put on the back burner, but she's really encouraged me, as Mary, to go ahead and do this. And Frank's going to be on the show, and he was a councilman in Ohio, and he was a Republican who brought down Democrat corruption. And boy, they retaliated viciously on him for exposing them and taking their office. And they ended up getting him put in prison. So I'm going to allow him to tell his story, but fascinating book. Check it out. It's called Framed Innocence.
Cool.
And so we're going to have him on. And it's just, he's like, look, nobody paid attention when this happened to me, but now this happened to Trump. This has been going on,
of course.
And so he's going to be coming on probably as a frequent
payback. Hey, you don't think McCarthy wants payback? Of course he does. He's already said he's going to primary. They're going to try primary Matt Gaetz out of Pensacola, Mace, a female out of South Carolina. I can't remember her first name right now. Last name Mace. All the Crazy Eight that he calls them, he wants to primary all of them and not give them support for payback. So Trump did the same thing when the Republicans that voted to impeach him, right? He wanted to go, and he did. He got rid of Liz Cheney, right, out of Wyoming. He got rid of another guy from Ohio. Can't remember right now. And so they all do the same thing to each other. It's all political payback. Unfortunately, that's what I don't like about the system. That's what bothers me, Bill, because I am not like that. I am about, if I was to go there, would be to help the people, to get my constituents right. I don't want political witch hunting, political paybacks. That's not what I'm about. So I don't know.
Yeah, we're about doing positive things. We keep this is the opinions of myself and Ignacio. A lot of the reporting and things we've discussed are our opinions, not YouTube. for educational and newsworthy purposes, and really repeating some of the things that we're getting from news sources, but also from our personal life experiences.
Yeah,
So
and research and studying and stuff. And people, sometimes common sense goes a long ways. And we have good common sense. Probably the average person with good common sense, that's well read and well educated, it's probably the best person you can have in public office.
Right. I'd like to give a shout out also to Peter Tickton. I call him the man you want between you and your problems, the lawyer. He's actually representing Donald Trump, one of his attorneys. He's a dear friend of mine. He's representing Samantha Markle, Meghan Markle's sister. They were in court in Tampa 2 days ago. Judge has held back ruling on whether there's going to be a trial or not, but the judge was asking all the right questions. So shout out to Samantha. We stand beside you anytime you're ready to start co-hosting again. There's a seat here for you at the table. And Peter has agreed to come on the show also probably this week as well. So shout out to Peter. He wrote a beautiful book called What Makes Trump Tick, because they went to New York Military Academy together when they were young men. And they remained lifelong friends ever since. And now he represents them as well. One of the many attorneys. So,
sure. Oh, he has quite a few. That's for sure.
It'll be interesting if he comes on with me, you and him together. That'd be a pretty cool show.
That'd be very cool. Absolutely. A lot of interesting questions. We can ask questions and my background and stuff, and with Trump. And I imagine a lot of things he may not be able to talk about.
Right. He mentioned one thing that, YouTube put me on a temporary suspension.
Oh, that's right. So, we'll see about that.
I'm not going to say what it was, but
no.
It was what he knew as being Trump's lawyer, and YouTube.
I don't like to hear that. Yeah. You can't say anything about COVID, and you can't say about the election being stolen. Those are big no-nos.
Right. So we're not going to go there. Unfortunately, it was his lawyer saying it and pointing to the evidence where it happened. And he says, but whether it would have thrown the entire election, I don't know. But we have isolated incidents.
Yeah.
Again, that's not my opinion, not Ignacio's, not YouTube's opinion. So don't strike my
channel. I have no first-hand information about that. So I don't know anything about that.
So we're just saying we're trying to play within the rules of YouTube, because a lot of us are running this to put our stories out there and hopefully, earn a little money and raise awareness for crime prevention and all that.
For me, I just enjoy talking to people, talking to and getting some interesting stories out, getting some interesting information out, and helping people be more aware of current events. I think it's important for all of us in a democracy. I'll tell a little side story here. I'm an annual past member at Mount Vernon out here, Washington's home, his estate, and there's a lot of history there, and you really get to appreciate the sacrifices, how we almost lost the Revolutionary War, very close, and Washington's courage and ideas and battles led us to this great country. And even after winning the war, it was a disaster. Just getting the Constitution done, and he didn't want to become president. And you know what? He didn't join another party. He's the only independent president we've ever had and won 2 terms with all the electoral votes. Good man, about something to think about.
Right.
No party loyalty to the Constitution.
There was even discussion back then, if I remember correctly from my study of history, where they were trying to decide whether to call the head office the king or the president.
He said, I'm no king.
Enough of kings.
I'm no king. I'm not King George.
Right.
We got rid of that clown, right? Yep. I'm going to be a president. Terms serving the people. And yes, the museum's phenomenal. His estate is unbelievable. I think every American, his tomb is there where he's buried, and Martha. It's really touching, and it's really an amazing estate to visit. I take my daughters there, and anytime I have family visit, we go there. And I've also been in Monticello. If you haven't been Thomas Jefferson, you can see where he's buried. He wrote the Declaration of Independence. An amazing person. Our founding fathers were really brilliant, and you should check out these places when you come visit Virginia. Amazing. It should be a requirement. You go to DC to go check Mount Vernon out, at least Mount Vernon. Amazing stuff there.
All right. Another great show. Ignacio, thanks for joining us. All the links are in the descriptions. Check out Steele Spotlight TV. It airs 3 times on a Friday, Saturday, twice on Saturday. And it's more of a regional Midwest channel, cable channel, but it's been getting a lot more exposure lately, especially,
good.
Thank God with my involvement. They love me over there, and I love the producers and the network that puts me out. Again, if somebody wants to become an underwriter or a sponsor, contact me. There are ways to do that. And we, no matter what, sometimes over time people don't see eye to eye, but we still try to keep it civil and get along and honor our obligations. So
that's great.
All right.
All right, Bill.
All right. Take care, Ignacio. We'll see you again next time.
All right. Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.